Cheese.
Cheese.
I had a surprising amount of people ask me if I was going to do a Riffmaster video. The answer is always going to be yes whenever I can get my hands on a new peripheral or a guitar-based rhythm game. I really do like this genre. And in this case, I was lucky enough to score a Riffmaster before they all sold out, so very thankful for that. You've most likely seen the box before on social media, so I'm not really going to spend much time talking about it, so it's over there now. So the Riffmaster is very clearly based on a Rock Band guitar more than anything else. So for comparison, I will start off by showing you a Rock Band 4 Stratocaster, because that's sort of the original advertisement for the Riffmaster, was like, oh, this is going to be a Rock Band guitar first and foremost, and whatever else it works with, it works with. Of course, we now know that they were engineering it for Fortnite Festival, but Rock Band first. This is the one that launched with the game originally when it first came out. The Jaguar replaced it later on. I don't have one of those, but I have two of these. And I can say from a lot of use and a high degree of certainty that I really don't like this guitar. I've never been a Rock Band guitar guy. I've always preferred Guitar Hero because of this. Do you hear that? Exactly. Probably not. The strum bars are silent on Rock Band guitars, which I don't like. It's not as precise for me. If I'm trying to nail like a fast area, it's got too much travel. There was one exception. The Hofner bass from the Beatles Rock Band actually didn't have as much of a travel for the strum bar, so that one I don't mind as much. But for the Rock Band 4 guitars, you can just see the travel is ridiculous on this thing. Let's compare. So right off the bat, you have the two sets of frets, which these ones down here are something I've never used in my life, and I don't know very many people that do use them. My hands are always up here. Again, I'm used to Guitar Hero guitars. The strum bar, again, it's silent. I don't like that. But I will give it this. The travel is a lot more bearable than on any other Rock Band guitar I've ever used. Like, the Strats have far more travel than this. You can alt strum kind of comfortably with this. It's not the best feeling strum bar ever, but for a Rock Band guitar, this actually does feel pretty good. Frets actually also do feel pretty springy and nice. The Rock Band guitars always have had really mushy frets, where you feel like you have to basically let off of them really hard and it gives you really bad finger fatigue. But the Riffmaster, actually, the frets are a lot springier and they come up a lot easier than on any Rock Band guitar I've ever used, which I'm thankful for, because that does make it feel a little closer to a mechanical guitar. It's not quite the same as like a mechanical fret Arduino sort of thing, but it does feel good.
Look at this whammy bar,
which is placed in pretty much directly in the middle of the body. PDP claims that they did this to make the guitar ambidextrous, so if you're a lefty, you can play and still comfortably hit the strum bar and also the whammy bar without either one of them getting in the way. Which, yeah, you know what? If that works, then good on you, PDP. I'm glad that you made a guitar that lefties can be comfortable with. Although I do have a fair amount of lefty friends that just use standard Guitar Hero controllers, so maybe they already have their bases covered. I don't know. There is a D-pad, which feels kind of mushy and gross, if I'm being honest. PDP normally makes pretty high-quality controllers, from what I've gathered, so the fact that the D-pad feels this bad on the guitar isn't great, but you're not really going to be hitting it a lot. And on top of that, there is an alternative. You have a joystick on the back of the head, which is really, really weird, and if you look at it, it's the Nintendo Switch Joy-Con joystick. That worries the shit out of me. I hope it's just the stick itself that's reused, and I hope this won't get drift, because replacing the joysticks in a Joy-Con kind of sucks. It's not the hardest thing in the world, but it's a bit tedious. I don't want to pull apart my guitar to fix the joystick. A couple different buttons down here, one for screenshot and one for start. There's also a programmable button right in the middle here, which is a great idea in concept for Guitar Hero guitars, because you can make your own star power button or whatever. But its execution is very, very poor because they made it so small and they put it in between the screenshot and start buttons, so basically two buttons that pause the game, and you have like a 1 in 3 chance of actually pressing the button you want. That's in a bad spot. That's bad design. I don't know what they were thinking there. And then on the bottom, you have a USB-C port for charging only, which is something we will be getting back to, because that is something I'm not cool with. There's also a headphone jack, which I actually will give it credit for. The headphones through the headphone jack on console pretty much have zero lag whatsoever. I've used a lot of wireless controllers in my day with headphone jacks that always have a little bit of latency. This one's probably the best I've ever used. So like no latency there. Yeah, and that's pretty much all there is to say. The faceplate does come off. This is one of the splatter paint ones that they gave you if you ordered from their website early on, but you can replace it, and the gray one just comes off, and you can paint it or sticker bomb it or do whatever you want. I've seen some people get pretty creative with theirs so far, so I'm looking forward to seeing what the community has in store. Maybe 3D printed ones or special ones will be coming soon, but the reason that faceplate comes off is because it's meant to hide a dongle. This is said dongle. You may notice it's USB Type A. Now, that actually pisses me off a little bit, because we are in the space year of 2024, where every single next generation console has a USB-C port smack dab on the front. All of my USB-A ports on my PS5 actually are already used by either hard drives or the dongle from my Corsair wireless headset. So like the only way I would be able to get a PlayStation Riffmaster working on my PlayStation would be putting this on a USB Type-C adapter. It would be ideal if they gave us a USB-C dongle in the box, or at the very least let us choose at checkout what console we're going to be connecting it to, a 5 or a 4 or an Xbox Series or an Xbox One, just so that way we have the option of choosing between a Type A and Type-C dongle. I understand why there's a dongle. You need it for the low latency and like the headphones to not have lag and all that stuff. I'm cool with there being a dongle. I just wish it was a Type-C, especially in this current age where there are a ton of people playing games like Yarg and Rock Band Deluxe on stuff like their Lenovo Legion Go, their Steam Deck, or in my case, my ROG Ally, which is always by my side, and I have no way of just hooking it directly into it because this has a USB-C port, no USB-A ports. I can't use the Riffmaster on this thing unless I dock it, and in that case, if I'm gonna plug it into a dock, I'm just gonna use one of my Arduino guitars anyway, so there's really no point. But yeah, anyway, enough bitching about the dongle. Let's talk about the guitar itself, and we're going to be playing some Rock Band 4. I actually bought a digital copy of Rock Band 4 specifically for this video. So I loaded it on up, I calibrated it, and it gave me an achievement for calibrating my TV. Okay. And as you can see, it plays Rock Band 4 perfectly fine. I didn't really notice any major discrepancies between this and using like a Rock Band 2 Strat. It feels pretty much the same. The strum bar does feel a little better. I even decided to try out some of those Uggo-ass highways that people tend to not use with the 4s all over them. And yeah, no, it works perfectly fine. No performance issues whatsoever from the guitar itself. So yeah, Rock Band 4 support, this thing seems to be pretty much 100% with, which is good because a lot of people are on eBay buying expensive scalped resold guitars when hopefully this thing will be a lot easier to come by and you won't have to do that soon. I then decided to shift over to my PC to play some Fortnite Festival, and yeah, once again, it works perfectly fine. I don't really have any issues with how the guitar itself feels. When I was recording this video, there's currently a strum bug in Fortnite Festival where you can miss notes if you don't fret before strumming. So if you like fat finger it, or you just don't plan accordingly, you can drop notes through like actual bullshit. No Rock Band or Guitar Heroes have had this issue in the past. This is literally just in Fortnite Festival. I don't understand why Harmonix is having such a hard time programming a game mode that they created, but that's a topic for a different day. This guitar works absolutely perfectly fine in Fortnite Festival, no complaints whatsoever. So then, the box on the side says it does work with Windows 10 and Windows 11, so I immediately thought, hey, it's gonna work like natively with Clone Hero, Yarg, World Tour Definitive, all those games that I do enjoy playing. So I decided to try all of them, and it just doesn't register in any of them. I don't know the reason why, Windows doesn't pick it up. So then I remembered that for Xbox instruments, you have to download a software called RB4 Instrument Mapper. Basically, the way RB4 Instrument Mapper works is that this dongle has drivers for the specific console on it, and you override them with generic controller drivers, so that way it turns your guitar into a generic controller, and you're able to pick it up in any game or any software you want. It crashed, and now my dongle, it doesn't get picked up by Windows 10 or my Xbox. I killed my Riffmaster. I'm not mad at the RB4 Instrument Mapper people because for all I know, I'd probably fuck something up here. I'm more mad at PDP for advertising this controller works on Windows 10 and Windows 11, but it literally only working in Fortnite Festival. What kind of crap is that? You know your fan base is going to be playing Clone Hero. So I know what you're thinking. Well, Danny, there's a USB Type-C port on the bottom of the guitar. Why don't you plug that straight into the computer and use your guitar as an X input device like every other Guitar Hero and Rock Band guitar in existence? That doesn't work. This Type-C port is only for charging the guitar. You have to use the dongle and have to use it wirelessly in order to play with the Riffmaster. And that is my biggest problem with this guitar, and what takes it from a wholehearted recommendation to a very, very cautious recommendation, because this thing has a lithium-ion battery inside of it. Every major electronic does, and anyone that's tried to use an old iPod Touch from 15 years ago can tell you that old lithium-ion batteries don't really work when they're past their prime. That's basically well known, and that means that any controllers that have built-in batteries 10 to 15 years from now are probably not going to work unless you plug them directly into the console and play them basically as a wired controller. You can't do that with the Riffmaster. The Riffmaster has to be played wirelessly. That's a problem, because 15-year-old Guitar Hero controllers still recognize perfectly on Windows 10, Windows 11, pretty much any OS you can think of. But the Riffmaster, when these things start dying, if the battery isn't easily replaceable, which there's no easily replaceable slots on the back, you have to take it apart, these things are going to be lining landfills because you're not able to use it as a wired controller. What the hell was PDP thinking? This is not a permanent solution for Guitar Hero fans. It's a band-aid, because we gotta hope that this thing doesn't shit the bed in 10 to 15 years. You can still plug in an Explorer from 2007 and use it flawlessly with the most recent versions of Clone Hero, World Tour Definitive Edition, and Yarg. But when this thing becomes as old as the Explorer is today, who's to say that it'll work at all? Because there's a good chance with this being a wireless-only controller that its prime will come and go and you won't be able to connect it at all because you can't plug it in. I don't understand why PDP couldn't make this an X-input controller like every other Guitar Hero and Rock Band controller in existence has been that's had a wired USB connection. Why make it so you have to use it as a wireless controller with a non-replaceable battery? That just doesn't sit well with me. I don't like that. So we come to the conclusion, finally. Do I think the Riffmaster is worth it? Specifically, I'm reviewing the Xbox version. That's the version I bought. Do I think the Riffmaster is worth the money? If you're planning on playing Rock Band 4 on the Xbox One, yes, obviously, duh, buy this thing, because Rock Band 4 guitars aren't really something you can come by super often. People are scalping them for hundreds on eBay when they're not worth that. The Jaguars are going for even more than the Stratocasters are, which is not really good for anyone aside from the scalpers. So I would recommend these things over buying a scalped Rock Band 4 guitar. It is a much, much better deal and much better value for you, and the money you save you can use on DLC while it's available. So yes, I do think it's worth it for that. But if you're planning on using this thing on the PC, stay far, far away unless you are only using it for Fortnite Festival and nothing else. But Danny, if I don't buy this guitar, how am I gonna play 5-fret rhythm games on the PC? You do have options. Run down to your local Goodwill, check your Facebook Marketplace, buy a cheap $10 to $15 to $20 guitar that's heavily used, even broken ones. Try to hit up your local game stores and see if they have any broken Guitar Hero controllers sitting around. If you go on Etsy, you can find drop-in replacement boards for various Guitar Hero controllers for under $100, and you may already own a Guitar Hero guitar sitting in your basement collecting dust. So all you gotta do is take it apart and throw the new board in, and for $100 you have an Arduino guitar that is programmable to pretty much any console you can think of, and on top of that, it's going to last you far longer because it's a wired connection and it doesn't rely on a lithium-ion battery that will one day die, and instead uses a reliable wired connection that you can choose the length for, because most of the time they're just USB Type-C, so if you don't like the 6-foot cable, just run down to your local Best Buy and buy a 10 or 15-foot one, and there you go, you're golden. I highly recommend you guys check out people like Retro Colt and Turpy on Etsy because their mod kits are very, very easy to install and don't really cost a lot in the grand scheme of things. You can essentially either buy them and mod a guitar you already have, or buy this thing and have it exclusive to one console until it dies. And if you do have a little bit more money to play around with, I would also highly recommend you shop at a community member's guitar store like 760 Creations, Guitars and Scarves, Katana Mods, etc. They produce far higher quality guitars than this, and they will last you far longer as well. If you play on console and you don't want to go through all of that, then sure. But all things considered, it's just lacking in a lot of areas that I would like to see refined. The awful programmable button spot, the fact that you can't play through the USB-C port, the fact that it is tied exclusively to one of only a couple different platforms to play it on unless you download third-party software, this guitar just isn't quite where I wanted it to be. It's still a really good guitar for people that are trying to get into the hobby that want to play on their console. It's just a little bit underwhelming to me, that's all. The Riffmaster is definitely a usable Guitar Hero guitar, and I would say overall it's the best Rock Band style guitar that I've ever personally used. But I will say that if you do play on PC, buyer beware, do some research, see what you can find. Until next time, guys, this has been DanRock. I hope you enjoyed this little Riffmaster review. I'm gonna go revert my drivers so that way I can get this damn thing working on the computer again. And until then, peace out and take care.